Okay, now we're going to talk about the protists, and this is a very diverse group. These are eukaryotes that don't fit into any of the other kingdoms. They're not a fungus, they're not an animal, and not a plant. And the two groups that we're going to focus on here are the algae and the protozoa. The algae are the plant-like protists. They're usually unicellular or colonial, and they photosynthesize. The protozoa are animal-like. They are unicellular, and both of these can cause problems for us. Now the algae, the photosynthetic ones, can be filamentous, unicellular, or colonial if they're microscopic. If they're macroscopic, they're either colonial or multicellular. And these are they're photosynthetic, so we know they've got chlorophyll because they've got to trap that sun's energy. They also have a cell wall, and they may or may not have the flagella. Most of them are free living in water, either fresh water or marine water. Plankton, the plant part of it, the phytoplankton, is algae. And this is the basis of most of the food webs in aquatic habitats, and they're also responsible, or algae is, for producing most of the atmospheric oxygen for Earth. There are dinoflagellates, a type of algae that cause red tides, and they produce toxins, and these toxins cause food poisoning, and if you get in the water that has this in it, it can cause neurological symptoms and sickness. It causes a lot of deaths for the sea life, and this is something they've been battling along the coast of Florida this summer. I've heard a lot about it. It usually happens once a year. These are different types of algae. You can see the algal cell up here at the top. It does have the flagellum, and it's got a cell wall, and of course you see all the organelles here. This is the filamentous algae down at the bottom. Over here on the right at the top, those are diatoms, a type of algae that produces diatomaceous earth. Their cell walls have silica in them. And a lot of abrasive products that we use diatomaceous earth in them. For instance, your toothpaste has diatomaceous earth in it. And of course, this is a colonial form of algae down here at the bottom. Now, looking at the protozoans, remember these are the animal-like protists, and they do not have a cell wall, and their shapes are different. They can be unicellular, not usually going to be colonies. Most of them are harmless, and they're going to live in moist habitat, in damp soil, under leaf litter, and things like that. A few of them are parasites, though, because they can be spread by insect vectors. We hear a lot about mosquitoes carrying malaria, and that's a protozoan. They're all heterotrophs, no chloroplast there. And the cytoplasm has two sections. It's got a clear outer layer for locomotion and feeding and protection called the ectoplasm, and then the granular inner area that has all the organelles in the nucleus called the endoplasm. And they feed by engulfing their other microbes or their food source, their organic matter. Most of them are going to either have flagella, cilia, or pseudopods. Pseudo means false, pod is foot, so it's a false foot. They exist as a trophozoite in the motile feeding stage, and they can enter a dormant stage if conditions are not good for growth and feeding, called a cyst. They reproduce asexually by mitosis or just dividing multiple fissions. They also can reproduce by conjugation, which is sexual. It involves two of them, and they have to exchange genetic material. Now for locomotion here in the top left, you're looking at an example of pseudopods where the cytoplasm extends out and engulfs the food source. This would be like you see in an amoeba. Down at the bottom here, you're looking at a paramecium, which has cilia, numerous hair-like structures around it where it swims through the water. And then over here, of course, you've got flagella, numerous flagella that it's going to use for moving. This is the life cycle of a protozoan, where we've got this trophozoite, this active feeding stage, and then conditions get kind of not so good. It's real dry, not a lot of nutrients, so we start forming this cyst around it, and it eventually totally encloses the trophozoite. But then when we get some moisture and some more nutrients around, that cyst wall will break open and reactivate the trophozoite. Now, medically, we've got some that are very important. The Entamoeba histolytica, that causes intestinal issues. Naegleria fowleri causes brain infections. Giardia lamblia causes intestinal distress. Plasmodium vivax causes malaria. And Toxoplasma gondii, this is going to cause flu-like symptoms, and it can invade different organs in your body. We'll talk about this more as we go along because I have a personal story that goes with this one. For our concept check, which of the following descriptions is true of both algae and protozoa? Are they both photosynthetic? Are they always unicellular? Do they both have mitochondria? Are they both heterotrophs? Think about how they eat, how they get their food. They both got mitochondria because they both got to have energy.